our pledge left. Yeah. I got it. I got you. Good evening. Welcome to our general city council meeting tonight for August 13th. We're going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Monty Johnson.
The audience would please stand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The audience may be seated.
Thank you, Monty. Sorry, our previously appointed person left. So, and you look good tonight, so I wanted to bring you up here in the tie. Looks good. Okay, we'll move on to 4.2, City Council comments and recognitions. Anything from council tonight? It's been a long month since we've met. I can't think of anything right now. I think we're good then. Okay. We'll probably think of something at some point. Item 5, public comment. At this point, audience members may bring any item within the city's purview to the city council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@harriman.gov or by visiting harriman.gov/agendas and minutes, where there is a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So at this point, if there's anybody that would like to make a public comment, you can come forward and state your name at this point. Okay, seeing no public comment, we will move on to item 6, council reports. Tonight we'll start with Jared.
So my main board assignment is Unified Fire Authority. I'm going to look to Chief Whittison to maybe give us a little report on the fire season and hopefully remind people to be smart out there.
Yes, thank you. This year and currently right now we're experiencing some very high wildfire risk. This is due to the hot, dry, and windy conditions that are out there, and coupled with very dry fuel conditions as well, and that's likely putting it lightly. Maybe better characterized as tinder dry fuel conditions that we're seeing. As we've seen throughout the summer and in Utah, that may be a little bit different than we've seen in past years, is that Utah is seeing some large fires. Currently, fires can start very easily and they can spread rapidly. We've seen that throughout the summer, and that includes, just as some examples, the Forsyth fire down south that impacted several structures. The Monroe fire, where we saw large fire growth. France Canyon fire. Recently, the Beulah fire that is up in the high Uintas, and if you've seen any footage of that, we've seen rapid fire growth as well as some extreme fire behavior. Locally, we had a fire that was started as a wildfire. It was started by a lawnmower cutting weeds, and that rapidly moved and got into 2 apartment complexes. Up to and including today, where there was a fire up in the North Ogden area that was started and spread rapidly. So again, fires during these conditions with red flag warnings, hot, dry, windy conditions, coupled with those low fuel moistures and really tinder dry conditions, fires can very, very easily start. They can rapidly spread. We can see extreme fire behavior, and sometimes that can overwhelm our suppression resources pretty quickly. We also know that wildfires are, the majority of wildfires are human caused. And that's historically, statistically, we know that the majority of those are human caused. So during these conditions, well, always, but certainly during these conditions, we are really urging the public and really everybody to just use extreme caution to prevent those wildfires.
And I would just add, not just wildfires, but that seems like we've had an inordinate number of structure fires just
as well.
local in the valley, from just things like I said, the lawnmower, somebody parking on top of weeds,
Yep.
right? And the hot
Absolutely.
exhaust pipes start ablaze. We had a presentation in the last board meeting about the growing awareness of the danger of all the lithium batteries, right? All these e-bikes and e-scooters, they're parking them in the garage and plugging them in, and they overheat with the heat of the summer. I mean, my garage is super hot.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? And so they're overheating it and starting kind of really uncontrollable structure fires from those batteries. So I think we talked about kind of some awareness campaigns on those fronts, because most people just think about wildfires and fireworks, but we're seeing a real uptick in kind of the local structure fires from some of these things that are
Fires in
definitely
general,
preventable.
certainly.
So, thanks, Chief.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Teddy?
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of driving by the Monroe Fire on I-15 just yesterday and then back again today from down south. But it's impressive. It's covering a large area, so. And then the downtown fire over the Monday night so lots of good restaurants and establishments down there. So we had a Jordan Basin Improvement District sewer district meeting. We accomplished quite a bit of business. We are also planning a trip. We have to do a major plant expansion of about 15 million gallons, so another half of what we're doing to double our plant size in the next few years. We're under pre-design right now, and I got invited to go out on a trip with them to Milwaukee to tour 3 different plant sites that have similar architecture and newer architecture than our plant. So that's coming up next week. I'll report on that on our next meeting. But that's paid for and supplied by the Jordan Basin Improvement District, so no cost to the city here except my time away. And then, it'll be a organized trip through them. It's all planned and out in Milwaukee area, Wisconsin. So should be an exciting trip, very eventful, packed 3 days of lots of driving and airport time, but very good tours on these 3 plants. So more to come on that. That's what I got.
Thank you, Teddy. Tara?
Sure. So one of my assignments is to serve on the Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District, and I've been to 2 meetings so far, and there will be a proposed tax increase this year. The public hearing is on December 8th at 6 p.m. at the district offices. But just as some information, the cost to the average homeowner will be a 99-cent increase for the year. And so just want to make sure people are aware of that. I do have like a fact sheet too, but as it's, I'm brand new to this, it's a new assignment, it's interesting to learn about where that money goes. And Harriman does get almost a disproportionate amount of services from this compared to what we pay in. So they've treated fish ponds in our area and horse troughs. They inspect our cemetery, mosquito spots, catch basin inspections, mosquito inspections. And so any citizen can contact them and ask for services as well as the routine ones they do in the area. They have been working to do more public information, and they will be at the Harriman Library on September 24th for a public information citizens information day with the booth. They said they'll have games and candy and also handouts about the proposed tax increase. So just wanted to share that information, and the money is going towards inflation as was mentioned earlier, but also some operational enhancements to bring old equipment up to standard, and some new technology. So, and with making sure that our laboratory testing capabilities are current.
Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you, Tara. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please do.
Sorry, just one quick thing. Sherry Warren's not here. She represents us on the garbage board, as she likes to call it, right? Another case in point of, I'll call the Emancipation Project, right? Another one of those districts that we are in the process of exiting to provide that service more efficiently to our residents. So that's ongoing as well. We started that process, and you'll see more about that this year.
Perfect. Thank you for mentioning that. My only thing I'll mention, I sit on the COG, the Public Works Corridor Preservation Committee. Harriman City, out of $4 million about, just under about 3.5 million. Harriman City was awarded 2.5 million for 126th, Harriman Parkway, between 6,000 and 6,400 west there. So now we'll be able to complete that acquisition. So another big win at the county level so that's, again, county level money that's coming into the city for projects here that are critical. So big win. So we'll have another one, I think the next one for some of that. Our next steps were we want to improve that, kind of that Main Street down through, I don't know, I call them the river bottoms almost, but down through past 7,300 west there, going out to Butterfield Canyon. That's our next target for corridor preservation, is to work with the county.
One that we brought to the council to discuss requesting it. We didn't get one letter from one of the residents.
A willing seller, willing.
But we did get the letter last week.
Of course.
So we have everything ready for that application, and the board indicated that they would approve that next time we come around when the funds are available again.
Yep, that's a strong joint application with us and the county for another couple of $1 million. We meet every 9 months or so when we get about $3 million in the pot at that, so we'll probably meet again just after the first of the year. So, but hats off to Blake for his work on that, and big, so thank you. Okay, at this point, we will move on to, we have 2 public hearings tonight, if I'm reading this right. The first one is a public hearing and consideration of a resolution to amend the City of Harriman budgets for fiscal year 2026. Back to you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of almost housekeeping items, I would call them. The first is, last year the Water Department did receive a grant from the Division of Water Resources for a secondary water line. We received $1,585,000 with a contingency that if additional funding became available, we could receive up to $2 million. The Water Department's been informed that we will receive the full $2 million. So this is to increase the budget from that $1.6 million up to $2 million. And then the other is we are changing the way we are accounting for how we pay for our city insurance, not employee insurance, but building insurance, vehicle insurance, and so forth. As the council is aware, we did switch insurance providers for cost savings. The idea is we are going to put that into what's called a risk management fund. So we will collect the claims from the premiums from the departments. We do a department charge. We will charge the departments for that. Then we will pay any claims or insurance premiums out of the same account, and then whatever savings we have, we will continue to build, with the idea that in the future we will partially self-fund some of our insurance liabilities, which ultimately will save us money, especially with how well our claims run and how safe our city employees are as a whole. So that will require creating a new fund, but it actually isn't allocating additional funds. It's really just charging the departments what's been budgeted in their department and transferring it to this new fund. Are there any questions before the public hearing tonight? Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this point, we'll open the public hearing on this item. Like every other, you have 2 minutes to speak to this. Okay, see no public comment. Look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Teddy,
I'll second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion amongst council? Or I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R43-2025, amending the fiscal year 2026 Harriman City budget.
Motion by Teddy,
I'll second.
second by Tara. Tara?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That motion carries. Item 8.2, public hearing and consideration to vacate a portion of a Harriman City public utilities easement located at approximately 12250 South, 6400 West. Blake?
Oh, good. Todd is here, so I might need his help on this one. Okay, so this easement is located as part of the Creek Ridge Cove project. It was dedicated to Harriman with Creek Ridge in 2016. See, this image is a little bit more of a close-up. The easement's shaded, but the portion we're discussing vacating is the small yellow piece shown in the exhibit on the right. Even though this is called a public utilities easement, it was granted to us in an agreement specifically or exclusively to Harriman, and as for the purposes shown here in italics. The actual impacts, as you can see here, as they're laying out that subdivision, there are 3 lots that are impacted by this easement. And so by vacating this portion of the easement, there is an existing water line in it, but it's almost 10 feet off of the property line. So in discussing with Public Works and the Water Department, they responded that they would be okay with that distance to allow that water line to be there and have room to work on it. So with that, staff recommends that move forward with the vacating of this portion of the easement to allow this subdivision to move forward, and we'd still be able to do what we need to with our utilities in that area. Are there any questions? Oh, there is a public hearing on this item too.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Blake. Okay, we will open the public hearing on this item. See no comments, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Tara, second by Teddy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion or look for a motion?
I'll do a motion to approve resolution number R44-2025, vacating a portion of the exclusive Harriman City Public Utilities easement located at 12250 South and 6400 West.
Okay, perfect. Motion by Tara. Second by Teddy. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, move on to item 9. This is our consent agenda. Look for a motion on the consent agenda.
I want to talk about item number, I'm shucking. Steve's not here any longer. So.
If you weren't gonna do it, I was.
When's it gonna get
we
old?
miss him. We miss
When's
him.
it gonna get old?
I actually had to dive into an item, but we spent all that money now that we just got. So it's good. It went to a good cause, though. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion by Teddy, second by Jared. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. That motion carries.
Have a little fun here.
Okay, we'll move on to our discussion and action items. We'll go to 10.1, discussion and consideration by resolution appointing a representative to the Trans-Jordan Cities Board. Trevor?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The ask tonight is to appoint a primary and an alternate member to the Trans-Jordan Cities Board. Just for some quick background, if you need it, or if you don't, here it comes. June 25th, the city, joined Trans-Jordan Cities by resolution, and now we get a board seat. 1 out of 8 of those seats on the board will be ours. Currently, we have 6 out of the 7 of those board members are city staff. There's 1 elected member of the board from one of the member cities. Trans-Jordan doesn't really have a preference. It doesn't seem like, anyway. They likewise don't seem to have a preference on how, like the term for those board appointments. They say, you know, city, just kind of follow your procedures around that sort of thing. It seems that our typical operating procedure is a appointment with an annual, you know, review or an annual kind of check-in on that sort of a thing. As far as when the meetings are, I didn't ask, but I went back and looked at the meetings, and near as I can tell, they shoot for the third Thursday at 7:30 in the morning. So that is very exciting for the primary board member and possibly the alternate.
Where are the meetings held? What's the location?
They're held actually out at the landfill right up here.
So that's
There's
not
a
bad. Okay.
there's their administration building. If you go in, you go upstairs. I have attended one of the meetings. Whoever you appoint, I'm happy to give them a sense of what that meeting is like. It was super exciting.
I was going to say caffeine's involved, I'm sure.
What is this board's responsibilities?
They're dealing with the operations of Transjordan, which handles the landfill and the landfill here, the tipping station they just built, they're building in Sandy. The new one, when this landfill closes, the
Transfer
tipping station here, and the landfill down in Utah County that they own. So they're really just setting policies and those kinds of.
Are they going to move operations or site of meeting once that happens?
I don't believe so. Their headquarters, they built all their facilities here, but they intend to build a tipping station at the current landfill location, so they will have a presence there. I don't anticipate them moving, but.
So the next part of my question is, for me, the kind of the delineation between staff or elected is setting rates for, you know, for the public taxes. And it's not a taxing district, but setting usage.
So what they set are the rates for the tipping fees, what people pay per ton for trash. That is one of their purviews. And so they're going to set that. Understand, as a member, we're going to pay the non-member for a certain number of years. Remember, I was part of that buy-in. So that board does set that rate. They're looking at equipment and all that. They have a staff. There's actually employees who work for the Transjordan district, and then these members work with them. So you're the board essentially of that district.
There's only one elected right now.
Yeah, the one elected is actually from Riverton. The rest appear to be tend to all be in the public works realm, it seems to me.
Do we know who that is, the Riverton official?
Troy,
Is it Troy?
I think so. I think I attended one meeting as we were joining. It's an exciting topic, talking about a landfill.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please. Hi,
Hello.
Sherry.
Sherry, do you have a recommendation, or? I guess my question is, do you feel that it should be a council member or staff member or one of each? Is that, you just said a member?
Sherry, are you open to being on it? My first thoughts originally were you backed by a staff member. As you can?
Yeah.
That was kind of my thinking why I asked, I'm good at volunteering other people for
Yes.
things. But I didn't want to do that to you. For those who don't know, Sherry's not running for reelection. She'll be done in December. She's been our long-serving member on the garbage board. I don't know how you feel about it, Sherry, but especially where we're in transition, I would feel a lot more comfortable if you'd be willing to maybe spearhead it, be that official member, but we can have someone maybe go along with you to
Or
learn
she's
the
the
ropes as we
secondary.
go, or secondary, something along those lines.
What does staff recommend,
Yeah, what do you
Trevor?
guys think? Do you guys have a staff member in mind? Nathan, do you have a?
I think it's up to you. You might attend for a while and then decide. It doesn't have taxing authority, so you're not setting property taxes or anything like that. You really are looking at operational costs. I think there's probably some value to having staff working on it. I think some of these other cities may have their own trash collection already, and so it's those individuals involved. It certainly wouldn't hurt a counselor to go. Like I said, I only attended one meeting. They went over their budget. It's not a terribly complex budget. As we looked at it, their biggest issue they talked about was capital replacement of loaders and different things that they're actually using at those tipping stations. So
I'm kind of with Jared. I wonder if we set our primary as a staff and we backfill with somebody with knowledge for 6 months, if Sherry's open and available.
Kind of transitioning, and she knows the ins and outs.
Well, that's my thing. I think we put Sherry as a primary and have Nathan as a backup, and that way Nathan's
I was going to put Justin in the.
Justin,
Yeah, I
okay,
was
and then
gonna
have
say,
Justin.
but I
then
didn't know
it's
if
a
that-
consistent staff member that can fill in the next person.
But if we put the staff, but I think if we put him as the primary position on the board, and I don't know, we backfill with the.
Remember, based on our policy, we look at it every January. So after the election, we'll look at it. So
It really doesn't matter. That's true.
you have the ability and flexibility, even if you put Counselor Orrin as the primary or a second, it doesn't matter. You can change that again in January.
Well, and to Jared's point, I think with the transition we're going through right now, Sherry's pretty well versed in this space right now with the transition.
Go.
Yes? Yep.
Perfect.
100%. Okay.
Motion to approve resolution number R45-2025 to appoint Sherry Orn as the Harriman City Representative to Trans-Jordan Cities Board before she decides otherwise.
Okay.
Second. Done.
Okay. It's done. Okay. Motion by Jared, second by Teddy. We'll go Jared,
Yes.
Teddy,
Yes.
Sherry, and Tara.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. That motion carries. Thank you, Sherry. Sounds like third Thursdays, maybe?
Third Thursday at 7:30. We'll say, I'll email you, Sherry, with that information. Counselor Orrin.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Trevor. Okay, we'll go to 10.2, proposed Juniper Canyon West Trailhead and Bike Jump Park. Wendy?
Will you pull up those slides, please, John? Thank you. Okay, this is part of our policy on bringing forward park projects and trail projects in Harriman City. We've gone through the open house, which was held in June, went before Planning Commission and their work meeting in July, and have now come to the council for your approval on this project. We have not been out to bid on this project. We won't do that until we have this body's approval first. Then we will go out to bid. We do have $2.3 million allocated for this project out of park impact fees in the budget. And of course, we'll always look for grants and other opportunities to reduce the city's share of that, and we've been pretty successful at that in the past. So to give you an overview of this project, this is phase 3 of Juniper Canyon Recreation Area. A few years ago, we completed the first phase, which was the Eastern Trailhead and the bike park. That's down there by Academy Village. This is further up the canyon, and it is at the end of, what's that road? Trails, I should know this. It might be on here. Bryce, what's that road? Okay, they'll figure it out. But it is for a trailhead and asphalt trail project, as well as a Harriman Bike Park in conjunction with Friends of Harriman. They have secured funds for that part of the project. You might recall this project came to the council, Jared, 6 years ago. We started talking about this.
Long enough that I don't know.
And this specific trailhead at that time had all the bells and whistles in it. It had an amphitheater, it had a reception center, it had dog parks, it had splash pads, it had playground. I mean, everything was in it. We've since gone back and revised that significantly due to cost, of course, and also just trying to retain the beauty and natural atmosphere of the canyon. This is the proposed trailhead. Did you find the street name? Juniper Trail Road. This road was constructed to be wide enough, and all the homes are rear facing to this road, so nobody front faces this road. And that was intentional for planning this trailhead in the future. This is the concept that we've come up with our design team. It's a cul-de-sac, some angled parking. There is a restroom facility and a small pavilion. This is the trail system that's being proposed. This is all asphalt trails throughout the canyon. It is about just over a mile of new trail in that area, connecting existing paved trails, which are those blue squiggly lines, with the gray or black proposed trails. You can see the trailhead parking lot there as well. The bike park is that area. It looks like a long linear rectangle just west of the trailhead. That is where the bike park is being proposed. We did have it further east, but the Mountain View Corridor project was going to impact that significantly and push it quite far back. So we located in another area, and this area seemed to work for that project. And that's kind of what those jumps conceptually look like. There'll be 3 lines about 500 feet long, a beginner, intermediate, and advanced course. And these are getting really popular in the recreation space across the country. So that's really the project. Do you have any questions for me or concerns about this project?
Hats off to Friends of Harriman for getting the funding for it.
Yeah, $150,000 from Friends of Harriman for their grants they went out and got.
Awesome.
They called me today. Their NEPA study came back, done. Like, they got a NEPA study done faster than we could ever get a NEPA study done. But $150,000 because of a little bit of matching money from us. I mean, that's what the vision was, right, with this, to be able to go get grants. So $150,000 is massive, so.
They did great, and that's the next item on the agenda, is actually approving the agreement with them to construct the park. While they would still have to go through all of our engineering and design applications and go through that whole process, just for safety purposes, they'll be hiring the contractor and building the park, so.
Yep, love it. Good work, everybody involved in that. Yep, love it. Okay, look for a motion.
Motion to approve the proposed Juniper Canyon West Trailhead and Bike Jump Park as presented.
Second.
Motion by Teddy, second by Jared. We'll go down here. Tara?
Yes.
Sherry, you still with us? Teddy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So that motion carries. 10.3, discussion and approval of a property use permit agreement for Friends of Harriman to construct Juniper Canyon bike jumps in the Juniper Canyon rec area.
And this agreement just outlines what we just talked about, that they'll be able to construct the bike park in that defined area. They'll have their own insurance, they'll hire the contractor, we'll do all of the engineering and site work, or not site work, but making sure that they're good. And then inspections, that's the word I'm looking for. And then it will just come back to the city for maintenance and operations.
Right.
Okay.
Motion to approve a property use agreement with Friends of Harriman to construct the Juniper Canyon bike jumps in the Juniper Canyon recreation area.
Motion by Jared, second by Teddy. Jared?
Yes.
Teddy?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Sherry? And I'll vote yes. That motion carries. Thank you, Wendy. 10.4, Fire Station 103 replacement contract approval. Monty?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay, I bring before you the Fire Station 103 replacement contract and submit it for approval. Let's see here. The new fire station will be located at 12900 South and 5600 West. It'll actually be a little bit west of that intersection and on the north side of the road. I'll give you a little bit of a background. In June of 2025, the City Council approved a design contract with AJC Architects to design the station using UFSA's standard small prototype design. This design's a proven design and been very successful. The design is currently complete. The building permit has been approved, and the project was publicly noticed for bid on June 17th. This was a two-phase qualification and base bid RFP. In phase one was an RFP that was requesting contractor qualifications. We had 13 respondents. That's the list you see on the left. A selection committee was put together. We reviewed all of the qualifications and narrowed the list to the top 4 qualified contractors. That's the 4 you see on the right. That brings us to stage 2 of the RFP, which is an actual invitation for a formal bid from the 4 contractors. The formal bids were received from the contractors on July 30th, and the cost for the construction was weighed and combined with the qualification scores from the first phase, and this table shows the results of that. You can see that Cure Construction submitted the lowest bid with $6 million or $6.8 million roughly. CERC Construction submitted a bid of 7.3. Warner Associates submitted a bid of 7.6. And Zwick Construction submitted a bid just under $8 million. Cure Construction submitted the lowest cost and also received the highest overall cumulative score. So with that, the selection committee is recommending that the construction of Fire Station 103 be awarded to Cure Construction in the amount of $6,850,600. I'd like to also note that we attached an analysis form in the packet that had the overall costs of the project, and that staff will be returning at the next meeting with a budget amendment to cover those full costs. Do we have any questions?
I might add something really quick. We added this kind of at the end. As part of that motion would also be to include a construction contingency. So as this project, those unknowns, especially as we start coming out of the ground, we don't know what they'll find as they start digging foundations, so you want the contingency. the advantage of doing what we've done, and I thank Monty for stepping in for Justin, is this design has been built, I think, 6 or 7 times already.
Yes.
And I believe Cure Construction has already constructed that, built that building before, if not
Multiple times.
once or twice. So our hope is that a lot of those things, when you build a building where you run into issues with change orders, that's already dealt with. But again, until the building comes out of the ground, there's always things that you can find that you didn't know were going to be there. So we would recommend that when you approve it, it's on that analysis, would be up to 10%. And that is really for those unforeseen things. This is not for, hey, let's add this. This would be really cool in the building. This is for unforeseen issues that come up. So just wanted to make sure.
Contingency of
council's aware
10%?
Correct.
All right, motion to approve awarding the Fire Station 103 replacement contract that I've been waiting for a very, very long time to do. Others have been waiting more anxiously, I'm sure, Chief. Award the contract to Cure Construction, including a 10% contingency.
Perfect. Motion by Jared,
I'll second.
second by Tara. We'll go Tara,
Yes.
Sherry, Teddy,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. That motion carries. Thank you, Monty.
Thank you.
Appreciate you filling in tonight. Okay, 10.5, review and consider a recommendation to amend Chapter 10-34 of the Harriman City Code to reduce the minimum rear and side yard setback requirement of accessory structures when adjacent to public open space to 3 feet and expand remedies. Yeah, the rest of that. That's a lot of, I'll let you go, Michael.
Thank you. And this is a petition that was initiated by a resident who's here tonight to be able to address you and answer your questions. I'll just quickly go through what the Planning Commission has recommended to the council. I'm sure that the council often feels like this when we are dealing with code amendments, and staff and the public does as well, I'm sure. This proposal has some minor amendments within it. We looked at some opportunities to just clarify some language. There were a few other kind of non-substantive corrections. We also wanted to make sure it was consistent with the recodification of the city code that happened recently. The applicant is requesting that when an accessory structure is adjacent to open space, that instead of requiring additional setbacks as the building gets a little bit taller, that we would be able to maintain those minimum setbacks, which are currently 3 feet for both side and rear. Also within our current code, we do have, under our enforcement provision, we can potentially approve a modification or a deviation of up to 10% when it comes to setback issues, only 10%. There are certain qualifiers in the code. I have seen other municipalities advocate this type of approach also with height. You know, when you're looking at a building that's 21 feet tall or 20 feet tall, from the curb or from an adjacent property, it is really difficult to tell that 10% margin. This is a kind of a best practice recommendation. That is the request from the applicant, was to add a height provision. Planning Commission reviewed this proposal, did recommend 5-0. Initially, we had talked about doing some other things within the code, but the commission decided that they were comfortable with only these 2 provisions forwarding to the city council. This came from a project that the applicant has initiated within our city. This is the location of this property, 6198 West Tapestry Lane. They obtained a building permit, but during the course of construction of this metal building, they ran into some issues with the setback not complying with the building permit, the standards of the code itself. So in trying to rectify that, they're submitting this text amendment to see if the council would be comfortable with making these changes in our code. So again, with that, Planning Commission did recommend these 2 amendments for council consideration.
Is there one they didn't recommend?
There were others, but
Okay.
they were more dealing with trying to standardize building heights. We've had some issues where permits that have been issued and being accessory structures are being built correctly we're getting some complaints because we are pretty generous on our heights when it comes to accessory structures. Planning Commission was just not interested in changing that code or making a recommendation to you to look at that issue. So again, these were the two elements. And these are the two elements really that the applicant is requesting. That was the core requests in response to their issue.
So is there public open space on both the rear and the side?
No, just on, you'll see on this map, you can see it's just the Lot B. Or this open space behind it, sorry.
Can you go back to that? I wasn't.
Yeah, go
I
back
didn't
to that
finish
map,
reading the
too.
enforcement action on the second item.
Yeah, that one.
This was an initial proposal. You can see that the plan said it was going to be 23 feet tall. Our staff said, okay, then you need to have a 10 feet setback. In the end, the building is, I think, 20 feet 6 inches tall. And I believe that their setbacks currently are 5 feet, but it doesn't match the requirement currently. We would still require more than what the applicant has on site.
So 20'6" is the current height.
That's what the applicant has stated,
Okay.
And I believe one of our inspectors has verified that.
Okay. And then what would, during our current code, what would be the minimum
You can
setback?
see right here,
10 foot?
so height based on setbacks. So anything over 16 feet, you start adding 1 foot for every additional foot in height. And that's the part that he's saying, we'll still do that, but when you have a property that's adjacent to open space, he's requesting that that additional 1 foot would be not required.
Because you're not blocking a view or obstructing.
Yeah.
So they're okay on the side yard.
Side yard and rear yard, yeah. Yeah. And again, the applicant can clarify that, but this
Go
is
to your other
essentially
slide,
what is being requested.
Mike, on what the planning and zoning recommended?
Yeah. Another issue that the Planning Commission had talked about was when we do require these increased setbacks, we end up kind of eating into the rear yard space. That setback obviously is trying to move these larger structures away from adjacent properties, but we also compromise how the actual property owner used their property. So the idea was, well, maybe we can accept in some scenarios a reduced or just maintaining that 3-foot setback as a minimum, allows for maintenance of the structure. You can still get out there and clean out the weeds, and then you're not eating up so much of your rear yard space.
And that's what I was going to ask you or the attorney. What is the intent of the current code? Is it for maintenance, weed abatement?
The idea, and we see this oftentimes in zoning, is that if you're dealing with if you're increasing the height of the structure, you tend to move it further away from the property lines.
Right, so let me give you,
Yeah.
for instance, if I live next door to one, right, and I have a garden that I've invested a bunch of money in. True. And somebody builds a building that then blocks the sun, right, that what they've done on their property negatively affects what I can do on my property is the intent, if you will.
Okay.
So where it's next to open space?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
But on the side yard as well?
I'm curious about why it's 3 feet instead of 5 feet. Like, what made you choose, come up with 3
The
feet?
current code says it's 3 feet. It starts at 3 feet, and then for every foot above 16 feet, you start adding 1 foot. So the applicant is just saying, when adjacent to open space, we wouldn't require that additional 1 foot. That's why.
Yes.
Did the planning commission talk at all about this 3 feet and?
They did, but again, this is what they had forwarded to you.
We're talking about just the side that borders open space, so where it's next to a neighbor, it would still apply?
It wasn't specified. The request was just that would be not a requirement for properties that were adjacent to open space.
So that,
Yeah.
to me, that's
Yeah,
a
you could-
difference, right? So it does need to be specific to the setback to the open space
Yeah.
versus a setback to a different property owner.
So in this situation, his side yard, he'd have to stay at because the side yard is not public open space. It would have to
Right.
stay at the current.
Right.
Minimum.
I'm okay with, I have
Or
no
it's a-
problem with that.
Or it's
next to open
adjacent,
space.
the side that's adjacent to the
To
open space, no problem.
Yep.
But, so I don't know, is that how the change that's being proposed to the code reads, that it's only the
Yeah,
one side?
it says except to property that is adjacent to public open space.
Right.
So the setback on the side that's to the other, it still applies.
Yeah,
In this example, it would still apply.
it'd be the backyard fence line, not the side yard.
Yeah. The
This
challenge.
is showing that it's only 3-foot minimum.
I'm sorry, I thought I understood that you said that the setback would be 3 feet
That's-
regardless of which side,
That's what the
if it
applicant,
borders the open space, so.
again, that's what the applicant is requesting. And
I
you can
see.
see on this chart, so his building is just a little over 20 feet. He would need to have a 7-foot setback on the side and rear under our current code, and I don't believe he has either one of those. Again, you can ask the applicant that question. This is a kind of a case example of the situation. You really, of course, should be making a decision independent of this, but this is just kind of more of an illustration
I
of
guess
this
that's what I was
issue.
looking at, is this illustration shows that it's only 3 feet from each side.
Is this the applicant's side or
Yes.
this is his physical property
Yes,
here?
yes.
So
yes.
where's this, that would be a question
It's
for
not,
him.
it wasn't shown on here
Yeah.
from our aerial, yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of like the baseline where you start when you're looking at an accessory structure. You need that 3-foot minimum setback, and then based on the height, it increases.
And did I read in the packet that the building is already partially constructed?
Yes, they received a building permit. It's not been finalized.
Did they supply a site plan on building permit application?
Yes, and that was this. I mean, this was an earlier version. It was, no, this is the correct one. I can't remember if this is the correction or not, but
So,
Yeah,
Mike,
I
the one
think
you
this is
sent
an
me
earlier
that
version.
is stamped
Yeah.
has different sizes. It has 7 feet.
yeah.
So
that
this
was
is
an
not
earlier
the
one.
stamped and approved plan. This is what was submitted. There was a stamped and approved plan that had different setbacks.
Sorry.
And was actual measurements or a mistake off from
No,
the
no, it was-
contractor or the? Okay,
Yeah, we had it correctly identified in the building permit.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, as a builder myself, I run into some issues where I miss stuff or the inspector or the plan reviewer miss stuff, so.
Well, I think that's where we need to step back and make sure we're not making a decision on this project. We're just saying, is this good policy to change
Right.
if we're against?
But then even that second about the reduction in enforcement or ramifications or whatever, however they worded that in planning and zoning, the enforcement remedies.
Yeah.
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 So I don't like that wording.
And this is a summary. The exact wording is
I'm
in your
looking-
packet.
I'm asking the attorney, sorry, I should have said what wording. So I'm looking at page 129. What it shows.
The packet?
In the packet, he's
packet,
looking at
yeah.
the actual text amendment. Where it talks about except when the property is adjacent to public open space in the table.
And that's all it says.
Yep.
Right, so it doesn't specify that only the side that is adjacent to the public open space.
Correct. And again, that's what the applicant is requesting, that both the interior
I get-
and
I
the
get that
rear.
That's what they're asking for.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, no, I'm not okay changing the
Right.
code, you know, for everyone to accommodate, you know, one person's request, because again, that ignores the property owners to each side.
And part of the problem is how we define rear yard and side yard, as that illustration shows.
well,
That
exactly.
Rear yard is encompasses all the way to side where the property is, and the side yard is just the very small portion
Next to the adjacent
where the
property,
house is. Yeah, so if you take the house and go sideways, that is just the side yard.
Because we had to do that clarification on corner lots and like all kinds of weird lots. Yeah.
It needs to be just an easier way to say that I'm okay with it being just the 3-foot setback from the property line that's adjacent to the open space.
Correct.
Anything else, it applies as usual.
Correct. Is 3 foot from your point of view, your hat, is 3 foot enough to maintain the fence line and the current property between the structure and fence line?
I mean, it's doable. I mean, that's a doorway. You walk through a 3-foot doorway, and that's pretty generous. We have a lot of doors that are more narrow than that.
I might have to turn sideways, I'm getting a little yoked here, but no, okay. I just wanted to make sure that,
Yeah.
Obviously, the litmus test for these things is, what if you live next door?
100%.
Well, yeah, I agree with your point. If it's public open space, 3 foot, yeah, that's a minimum. That sounds decent.
I think we're all saying the same thing. We just need to make sure our language matches that.
How we want to word it, if there's a way to do that tonight, I
I
don't
don't
like
know.
bringing things back, but it needs to be brought back with the proper wording to make sure that, because at least in my experience with these things, we can say something tonight, but then when it goes down to the people who are
understanding.
applying it and stamping plans, et cetera, and it being interpreted properly, sometimes there's a disconnect.
I'm sure we can come up with wording, but the wording would be cumbersome.
Yeah.
So if you want me to attempt some, or the applicant can attempt some wording, we can come back at a future date. But it would be different than most of the other regulations, just because we're making an exception to the exception at that point, and that we're now redefining what a side yard is, and maybe there's a clean way to do it, but that's drafting. It's going to be a little wonky.
Yeah, that's where the definition of side yard or backyard, et cetera, those aren't universally applicable based on the orientation of a house and a lot.
But there's also,
Side backyard.
there's,
Talking this- okay.
yeah, there's also pre-existing items that that maybe not our body, but the city has set precedent on enforcement and actions on other properties that have had buildings and structures. So we also have to look at that, so.
And that's that second bullet point of.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm looking at now.
So
Allowing
what
that.
seems like something that's common sense on the surface turns out not to be so much. I can only speak for myself. I'm not okay with the wording as it is. I'm okay with attempting something else if it's worthwhile, but that's a question for everyone.
Well, I mean, in the corrections and remedies, it talks about the adjacent property and the public health or safety. Talks about setback requirements, undue hardship. I mean,
Those are remedies, though.
yeah.
That's
But I
all
think that's
that's
what they're,
done.
at this point, that's what they're looking at, because the building's under construction or.
Well, but we've had, I mean, there was one of these in my neighborhood.
I know, yeah.
Caused a
That's what I was just
gigantic
thinking of, yeah.
problem, and I side with the homeowners who bought their houses and put their, all of their effort into their properties, and this thing was completely negatively affects them.
Yeah,
It goes along the lines of, and I'm not saying this to this particular one, I'm saying in the case of that one,
Yeah, that's
that I have
what
personal
crossed my mind
experience
on
with.
that, yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing with the encroachment issue that we've dealt with, is that there's a pervasive attitude of ask for forgiveness later, right, rather than permission. Well,
But
it's
then-
already been building it.
And then whose oversight was it, right? It's hard to figure out where that was in that communication line, being this far down it, so.
So do we need to continue to come back with language?
Well, I have a question about that.
Yes.
If we continue it, how will it affect the homeowner?
Nothing is progressing right now. They're waiting for this to resolve. They're not subject to any current enforcement activity until this has been decided by the council.
I'd like to see it continue.
Yeah, I can see an oversight. Seeing that we didn't carve out or make an exception to open public space. But that's the only difference I see on this, besides if it was in a subdivision with a back lot.
But it seems like it makes sense
Yeah.
that for us to continue it, see if there's a way to do something or not.
To reduce the rear yard space, or the space that's adjacent to open space, right? That site, that setback.
That may
Yeah.
be some good language.
Yeah,
And not identify it as a rear or side yard, but.
yeah. We can do that.
Let's do it. Let's continue this, yeah.
I'll motion to continue item 10.5 with the direction to work on wording and bring back at a later date.
Second?
Okay. Motion by Jared, second by Tara. We'll go Tara,
Yes.
Sherry, Teddy,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well on that. So we'll continue that item, work on some language. Appreciate it, Michael. Let's go 10.6, review and consider an ordinance to amend Title 10 of the City Code to expand telecommunication services by modifying the location criteria and related standards for the construction and operation of wireless communication facilities, including monopoles. Michael.
And our applicant, Mark Williams, who's representing the development interest on this property, is online tonight and is ready to address your concerns. He also had prepared a separate presentation, but I had asked him to allow me to make a presentation and try to just answer maybe your technical questions. But that second slide deck is in there in case it's needed, John.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, I'm going to briefly just go through what we currently have in our city for tools to regulate these monopoles or stealth installations, and then have a very high overview on kind of the primary intent of what the applicant is proposing. As you know in your packet, this new amendment is a lengthy amendment. It was drafted by some special counsel who's very experienced in this area on behalf of the city. Again, this was a private initiated petition that the city responded to, and we've worked very collaboratively together to come up with this amendment. It's still not an easy thing for everyone to digest, and in fact, the Planning Commission had 2 meetings, as you know, on this item. So in addition to the text amendment that's before you tonight, the applicant also submitted an actual development proposal for a particular commercial site in our city that does not currently comply with our ordinances, which is why they submitted the text amendment. That administrative review has been tabled pending the outcome of this process. This is a highlight of the current code. It's very simple. As you know, we require that these be located on public and quasi-public spaces within the city. There's a number of metrics that are in here. We typically see these located on school sites, charter schools. We've done co-locations and we've done stealth. As you can see in our current table, it is allowed in most zones as a conditional use. The MU2 has it as a permitted use. In the MU zone, the MU zone, it has a conditional use 50-foot maximum. So a pretty simple tool. And again, this has been the result. We have had a number of stealth installations come into the city. The challenge we've been hearing from the industry is that we are growing. we have more demand, and I'm sure the council has had residents complain about cellular coverage, about having sufficient digital access, which is not just a matter of convenience anymore, as we know. It really is. So many people are working from home. We have multiple devices connecting to the wireless network and really overwhelming those services. As we've been growing as a city, we haven't been expanding very many institutional uses, these public and quasi-public. You know, we have one library, we don't have two. We do have schools, but not every school site maybe is in the right place. But again, it feels like as a growing residential community, we're just not getting these quasi-public and quasi-public lands for monopoles and stealth sites. Again, we have commercial, but that doesn't qualify. They're not typically public or quasi-public. This is a big point that the applicant made with the Planning Commission, is that in siting these antennas, line of sight really is critical. The further that this antenna array can essentially see, you know, the more coverage it will deliver. The idea is that if we have a taller site, which of course is part of their request, we can have more co-locations. We often will see a second co-locator, but rarely do we have, you know, 3 or 4. If we have a taller monopole, such as 80 feet, initially they had talked about maybe doing 100 feet, but they moved it down to 80 feet in their proposal. Again, this line of sight is really important to these providers at achieving this coverage. For example, this was in a couple of slides that the applicant had shared with the Planning Commission and was also in your packet in that slide deck. For P-Mobile, this is their existing service in this area. If they had their proposed site approved, that this is the service map change that they achieve with this proposal. So just looking briefly, again, just as a case study showing what they're trying to achieve, this is a location off of Academy Parkway. It's near the Holiday Oil. It's behind that gas station. Redemption is in this area to the at the lower end of the screen. That's the site itself of where they're trying to locate this new monopole installation. And you can see that this height, the applicant is proposing that they think they can acquire or lease space on this pole for potentially 3 additional carriers on this property. Just reminding us as far as what the zoning code is trying to achieve. These are the purpose statements. And we're obviously wrestling with balancing, different interests. This one, promote the prosperity, peace, and good order, comfort, convenience, and aesthetics of the city and its present and future inhabitants and businesses. It's been apparent to me, having worked for the city now for about 7 years, that when it comes to the monopole industry, this has been something more of an aesthetic, like what is the impact visually on our community, and trying to kind of limit that impact while still having services. That seems to be what we have been leaning towards. And again, this is a balancing act between private interests, maybe you might say commercial interests, and the public interest, the public good. But I think clearly we do see a lot of requests for increased services, and we're having problems or complaints with getting that service delivered to our residents. When this went to the Planning Commission, staff had identified a number of proposed changes to the draft that was prepared. The applicant was generally pretty accepting of these, mostly just technical changes, trying to make it consistent with our recodified ordinance. But you'll see at the bottom, we were pushing more towards doing conditional use, perhaps permitted use for stealth. The applicant really wants these sites to be a permitted use and to be administratively approved. The argument is that now that we've expanded the code to, I think, what is it, like 25 pages in your packet, there's a lot of built-in requirements that can be administrated in deciding whether or not a proposal complies with all of those standards. The Planning Commission held their public hearing. They tabled it. Applicant responded with a number of comments, came back to the Planning Commission on July 16th. The Planning Commission deliberated this. I can't remember how long it was, an hour and a half maybe? It was pretty long. They voted 4-3. There was some concern still with separation distances, heights, but they did recommend that all locations would be a conditional use. There was some concern that language in this current code, which is specific to commercial or non-residential private property, might impact the city's ability to still allow monopoles or stealth sites on public and quasi-public property. That's still, the way the ordinance is written, it still says that's our preferred option. If that can't meet the service demand, then we look at these non-residential solutions. But the commission was recommending that this one section be removed. It's still in your draft ordinance, but that was one of their recommendations. Another one is that they wanted to have the residential distance, the separation from the actual site or the monopole, and the residential property line be at least equal. So if you have an 80-foot pole, they wanted to make sure that it was at least 80 feet away from that property line. I presume they're thinking about if there is a failure in that monopole, and if it were to fall, it wouldn't harm residential property. Such failures are extremely rare, but I believe that that's what they were trying to achieve in having at least a 1-for-1 setback from a residential property line. Not a zone, but just the property line itself. They talked a little bit about whether or not they should go to the building, the residential building, and they settled on property line. And then again, maximum height of the monopole being 80 feet at any installation, which I believe the applicant is comfortable with accepting that one. But the key issue is, I believe for the applicant is, again, they want to see these BPs, at least in the commercial zones. They want to see the permitted use. We specified, and this is kind of a very short version of what's in your packet, we're saying that we still want to have these to be on public or quasi-public property, and then that added line, or permitted on private non-residential property subject to that new chapter, 1035. And then specifying that when we're dealing with antennas or monopoles on public or quasi-public property, that kind of simpler code, which seems to be working. It seems like that has met the objectives of the city in the past, that 1029.8 would still be valid. And then 1035 in your packet is the new proposal.
If I could provide just some additional context, and I appreciate Michael for doing the presentation on this. The applicant has worked with the city probably for over a year, maybe closer to a year and a half on getting this before you tonight. When they originally submitted the text amendment, they were, one, we wanted to make sure that we were protecting the city's interests. So we sent it to the best telecommunications attorneys that I know that are located in DC. Well, they have firms all over the country, but and they, in working with the applicant, were able to resolve a lot of the issues between their original text amendment that they submitted versus what our outside counsel was suggesting. So we're able to get it to a point that I think does balance that interest of the commercial use versus the aesthetics, and we don't want poles going up anywhere. As Michael suggested, they first need to look at the public and quasi-public areas, and then if they can't do it, like if there's only so much public and quasi-public property that is available where they can get to an agreement with the leaseholder or the property owner, that then these other exceptions apply, and they have to meet all these additional criteria. And ultimately, it's to provide better coverage. And you saw the coverage map that it's needed over there on that Mountain View corridor roadway. I don't know if you drop calls like I do, but it's pretty spotty. So there is some need over there. And that's part of the reason why the applicant's been very patient with the city and some of the timeframes is getting some responses back from us and outside counsel. And that's why they submitted the conditional use permit we're trying to speed this up. We're trying to do everything we can on our end as the applicant. So that's why they submitted that application, that we could start the review process. And if this is approved with some revisions, that they can get going and build something to add additional coverage. If there's any additional questions, Michael and I are happy to weigh in.
The Planning Commission's recommendation was to keep it as conditional.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that part's in there, so.
That's what I was, yep.
If the council were to make a motion, I do want to be clear, I think your language on your sheet doesn't specify the planning
got it.
commission's conditions or recommended conditions, so
Okay.
if you wish to, that's up to you, of course, but.
So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2025-18, amending Title 10 of the Harriman City Code to expand the regulatory standards and location criteria of wireless telecommunication facilities on non-residential properties with the Planning Commission's recommendations.
Good with that? You good with that?
Is that?
Including their
Including the
recommendations.
plan, I'm looking at Todd, is that?
With the residential distance?
Yeah, so these are the four. I don't know if you were just focusing on the conditional use aspect of it.
I just want to make that one in particular, but the rest of them.
And I don't know if you want to hear from the applicant on maybe some of their concerns with the Planning Commission's recommendations and then make a.
There's a motion on the table, huh?
Yeah,
You tell me.
there is a motion on the table, so you can.
I can amend it, right? It's not been seconded.
Correct.
So you can still discuss it and I can amend it, right? So definitely that's the main one. And as I'm reading it, right, the maximum height is 80 feet. The minimum is that it equals the distance. I'm not sure, what is this minimum separation? Is that the other concern? What is the hesitancy?
I know the first and the fourth, the applicant's comfortable with. I believe they're not concerned with the second one. The residential distance, I'm not sure. I think their current site complies with that, but you'd probably want to ask the applicant.
Well, what about future sites? Is this?
Yeah, we're not doing
Right.
this just for the one
Right,
site.
right,
You're asking us
right.
to make a complete ordinance change,
Right.
right?
But I just heard that you were interested in maybe what does the applicant think of these?
It's Mark, right? Is that what we said?
Yeah.
Mark?
Mhm.
Very different size.
Question on that, Mark. Question on that one, Mark. Is this site-specific 80 feet? Is that why we can, I mean, with a conditional use permit, we can dictate per site? So do we open that up to a maximum allowable feet for future sites?
I think the 80 feet would be the maximum allowed.
Of what we would recommend.
Yeah, and the conditional, that wouldn't be a part of the conditional use aspect of it. The conditional use would look at, is this location appropriate, and is there any detrimental effects associated with it, and how can those
But say,
detrimental effects?
so 80 foot would be the max anywhere in the city?
Yeah.
Would we ever recommend a lower height or require a lower
Well,
height?
currently in code, it's 50 feet, up to 100 feet with planning commission recommendation. In my experience, 80 feet's pretty standard in municipalities. I do want to point out that there is a federal law, it's called an eligible facilities request, that allows essentially an applicant to go possibly up to 20 feet over that amount. So where I think historically the council or the code has been up to 100 feet, that's still, they have to meet a bunch of criteria in order to get the eligible facilities request. But so I think 80 feet is standard and appropriate.
Okay. Awesome, thanks, Mark. You can continue on. But you're talking, that would be a stealth site though at that point, not a monopole.
No, but I mean, I guess where I'm having trouble with this is I'm not hearing any objections to the planning commission's recommendations, right? The minimum separation, their recommendation is to remove that requirement, to allow that to be done easier.
Yeah,
So-
this was, yeah.
So
If
I'm
he
back
doesn't-
I'm back to my motion that's on the table
Yeah.
to approve this with these recommendations.
I don't have any concern. If the applicant's okay, I mean, Mark, I'm not trying to not let you speak, but if we're all on the same page, right? That's kind of where I'm.
Go for it.
Okay,
Motion remains as is.
Second?
so motion on the table. Teddy, seconds. We'll go Jared.
Yes.
Teddy,
Yes.
Tara,
Yes.
Sherry? Okay, and I'll vote yes, so that motion carries. Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Michael. Yep. Thank you. And thank you to everybody. That's a long process to have behind us, so thank you, everybody. Okay, we'll go to 10.7, review and consider an ordinance to amend Harriman City Code subsections 10-3-6E to include the storage of semi-trailers and the definition of recreational vehicle storage yard. And some fencing material. Michael?
Thank you. This is also a privately initiated petition to amend the zoning code, specifically to allow what we would typically call a temporary use, to have a longer duration, up to 35 days per temporary use permit. So it's being called a seasonal attraction. This was heard by the Planning Commission on June 6th. The notice has been out on June 6th. The hearing was June 18th, and the commission recommended to deny this proposal, 6-0 vote. These are the different parts of the amendment. All of this, of course, is in your packet. Essentially, in occupying what is unimproved property, the idea is to have an allowance of storing under this recreational vehicle storage that we could store semi-trailers in addition to RVs. That was so that the semi-trailers that are associated with this event could just be parked on site for a longer period of time, even when they're not in use, essentially, just be storage. The second part was dealing with screening. Within some zones, we require, of course, screening of outdoor storage. And then the request is, instead of having a solid wall or fence, they could potentially have an 8-foot-high vinyl-coated chain link fence for security, and then use landscaping to screen the storage where it's visible. There may be places where it's not visible from a public right-of-way. They still obviously want to have security, and then they would do the screening using landscaping, essentially. Another element was, and this is actually that second part, was dealing with the visibility. When something is visible, that's when they would have to do that additional landscaping. Then the extension of time for a seasonal business. This is again where they're wanting to extend that up to 35 days. We can see some benefit out of having additional events within our community. They're commercial. Some of these places that we see around the Wasatch Front are very successful that operate year-round or even seasonally. They can do very well. But there was some concern about what is that impact on the long-term viability or redevelopment of property if it's being occupied by these seasonal uses. So again, the Planning Commission recommended denial. Here are all of the different elements of the proposal that are in your packet. And again, the applicant is here to answer any of your questions on their business plan and their recommendation for this amendment.
I love the idea of an event and having the opportunity. I drive by one in West Jordan all the time. Very similar, Spook Alley, Halloween stuff. But after just coming out of the whole recreational RV vehicle storage parking ordinance, that was a massive lift. I know why planning and zoning probably voted no real quick on it, but it's all these concerns I have the same. What does it look like? The long-term storage, upkeep, safety, vandalism, all the other activities that go along with unattended or unoccupied structures. There's a lot of smaller nuances that I'm not sure. That's where
Any thoughts, Tara, on this?
No, I just echo some of the same concerns that Teddy has.
I mean, if it's truly temporary, it's set up on site, carnival style, moved off site. That's very cumbersome, very time and cost extensive. And then screening properly to meet our current code and standards would be very cumbersome as well.
Any thoughts on this one, Jared?
I agree with the planning commission, reading through the information.
Okay, I guess I'll look for a motion then? Is the applicant here? Who's the applicant? Is it you guys? Okay. Okay, look for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to deny the amendment to the Harriman City Code, Section 10-3-6E, Section 1013-4, the subsections 1030-5.
Okay, do a motion by Teddy,
I'll second.
second by Tara. We'll go Jared,
Yes.
Teddy,
Yes.
Sherry, Tara,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. I'd like to talk, I think we talked on the phone to one of you. I think there's options for next year. I think we've talked about some different options, so let's keep in touch on this, so. Okay, with that being said, that motion is denied. The motion tonight is approved 5-0. That brings us to the conclusion of our meeting tonight. Future meetings, our next planning commission meeting is the 20th at 7 o'clock. We have a Board of Canvassers meeting to certify the results of the primary election on August 26th at 5 p.m. Our next city council meeting, August 27th at 7 p.m. Hungry Harriman Food Truck Roundup Monday night. There is a farmer's market along with, I think the market is there Monday night? This Monday night as well. There's a skate in the park night,
Okay.
Friday night
Yeah.
here, Friends of Harriman. What else am I missing?
School is starting, so please watch crosswalk safety, slow down, children are out there. We should have mentioned that at the start of the meeting, but please watch out. We've all got kids walking to the school, so please be cognizant. Know the difference of crosswalks. Right, Cody? Chief Strongwork? Yeah. Awesome.
Might be time to do a video again.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, any other events I'm missing? Okay. That brings us to the close of this meeting. I will look for a motion to go back to our work meeting.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
You can still make it, Sherry.
Don't bother Sherry.